Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य स्तोत्र शत श्री ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामचर्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधरी भगवान की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र मैया की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada all glories to Srila Gurudev. Hare Krishna, welcome everybody to this session today. We'll continue reading from Prabhupada Lilamrita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Share my screen. So I'll read and people can follow on the screen. So this is from, I think, chapter 38, entitled No One Listens to a Poor Man. Tamal Krishna was insistent. Seeing that Prabhupada would not make a commitment, Tamal Krishna had adopted the tactic of presenting himself before Prabhupada early in the morning without saying a word. In Bombay, he had entered Prabhupada's room, led the Mangal Arati before the deities, and then sat silently before Srila Prabhupada. Knowing the mind of his disciple, Prabhupada could understand that Tamal Krishna was not only determined but obstinate. After several days of tolerating Tamal Krishna's silent, insistent presence every morning, Prabhupada had finally agreed to consider seriously the request. Prabhupada was also concerned with Madri Devi Dasi, Tamal Krishna's wife. She was an attractive, intelligent girl who had given her life to Krishna consciousness. And Tamal Krishna, by his own choice, had married her only a year ago. Spiritually, Madri was Srila Prabhupada's daughter, and Prabhupada wanted to protect her from undue disturbance. Even as householders, Tamal Krishna and his wife had been renounced. traveling with Prabhupada throughout India with very little time or facility for private life as husband and wife. Tamal Krishna had been in Bombay when Shamsundar had informed him that Prabhupada had mentioned in a letter to Brahmananda Swami in Africa that Tamal Krishna might take sannyas. Spurred on, he had left his wife in Bombay and joined Prabhupada in Jaipur. On leaving, however, Tamal Krishna had asked Madri for his personal copies of the first three volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, signed by Srila Prabhupada. Madri had become suspicious. She had asked why he wanted them. I just want to read them, Tamal Krishna had answered. But she had suspected the worst. No, you are not coming back. But assuring her that he would definitely be returning, he had left for Jaipur. Once with Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna again resumed his silent insistence. Whenever there would be an open meeting in Prabhupada's room, the GBC leaders would usually sit in a privileged position near Prabhupada so as to best receive direct instruction. Tamal Krishna, however, would simply sit outside the door. The first time he did this, Prabhupada looked up and said, Tamal Krishna, you're sitting outside. That is very nice. And the other devotees took it that Prabhupada was praising his disciples' humility. On one occasion, Prabhupada addressed Tamal Krishna as Tamal Krishna Maharaj. The devotees were startled. The women devotees in Jaipur, being close friends with Madri, became angry at what they took to be Tamal Krishna's duplicity. Although Prabhupada had not given permission, Tamal Krishna went ahead with his plans, even to the point of preparing his sannyas danda and dyeing his clothes. The women were outraged. Madri was not even there to represent herself. Altogether, the women went to see Srila Prabhupada, who patiently and sympathetically heard their presentation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki श्रीमद्भागवतं पुराणममलं यद्वैष्णवानां प्रियं यस्मिन् परमहंस्यम् अमलं ज्ञानं परं गीयते तत्र ज्ञानविरागभक्तिसहितं नैष्कर्म्यमाविष्कृतं तच्छृण्वन् सुपठन् विचारनपरो भक्त्या विमुच्य नराः भक्त्या विमुच्य नराः भक्त्या विमुच्य नराः ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. So today we'll continue reading from Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 37. द्रव्यक्रिया हेत्वा यनेश कर्तृभिर् माया गुणैर्वस्तु निरीक्षितात्मने अन्वेक्षयङ्गातिशययात्मबुद्धिभिः निरस्तमाया कृतये नमो नमः. द्रव्यक्रिया हेत्वा यनेश कर्तृभिः माया गुणैर्वस्तु निरीक्षितात्मने अन्वीक्षयं गतिशयात्मबुद्धिभिः निरस्तमाया कृतये नमो नमः. Okay, devotees.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I am thank you, sir.
Yes, please.
দ্রব্যক্রিয়া হেতু অয়নেশ কর্তৃভির মায়া গুণৈর্বস্তু নিরীক্ষতাত্মনে অন্যীক্ষয়াঙ্গাতিশয়াত্মবুদ্ধিভির নিরস্ত মায়া কৃতয়ে নমো নমঃ। হরে কৃষ্ণ প্রভুজি, দণ্ডবত প্রণাম।
Krishna. Mataji.
হরে কৃষ্ণ প্রভু, দণ্ডবত প্রণাম।
Krishna.
দ্রব্য ক্রিয়া হেতু অয়নেশ কর্তৃভির মায়া গুণৈর বস্তু নিরীক্ষিতাত্মনে অন্বীক্ষয়াঙ্গতিশয়াত্মবুদ্ধিভির নিরস্ত মায়া কৃতয়ে নমো নমঃ। হরে কৃষ্ণ।
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dravya hetve neshkatribi marya gune vastu nirikshtatmane anvikshiyang tash yatma buddhi bhi nirast maya kritiye namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
Krishna.
द्रव्या क्रिया हेतवायनेश पितृभिः माया गुणैवस्तु निकृष्ट आत्मने अविक्षयाङ्गातिश्यात्मा बुद्धिभिः निरस्त माया कृत्ये नमो नमः। थैंक यू। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you. Okay, we go for the synonyms. Dravya, by the objects of sense enjoyment. Kriya, the activities of the senses. Hetu, the predominating deities of sensory activities. Ayana, body. Isha, the predominating time. Kartribhihi, by false egotism. Maya Gunahi, by the modes of material nature. Vastu, as a fact. Nirikshita, being observed. Atmane, unto the Supreme Soul. Anvikshaya, by careful consideration. Anga, by the limbs of yogic practice. Atishay Atma Buddhibhihi, by those whose intelligence has become fixed. Nirasta, completely freed from. Maya, the illusory energy. Akritaye, whose form. Namaha, all respectful obeisances. Namaha, respectful obeisances. Okay, somebody would like to read the translation?
मैं आए प्रभु जी?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The objects of material enjoyment, sound, form, taste, touch, and smell, the activities of the senses, the controllers of sensory activities, the demigods, the body, eternal time, and egotisms are all creations of your material energy. Those whose intelligence has become fixed by perfect execution of mystic yoga can see that all these elements result from the actions of your external energy. They can also see your transcendental form as Supersoul in the background of everything. Therefore, I repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, Hare Krishna. And purport somebody?
হরে কৃষ্ণ প্রভু।
Krishna.
The objects of material enjoyment, the sensory activities, attachment to sensual pleasure, the body, false egotism, and so on are produced by the Lord's external energy Maya. The background of all these activities is the living being, and the director of the living being is the Supersoul. The living being is not the all in all. He is directed by the Supersoul. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Krishna confirms this. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matta shritirgyanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The living entity depends on the Supersoul for directions. A person advanced in spiritual knowledge or a person expert in the practice of mystic yoga, yam, niyam, asana, and so on, can understand transcendence either as Paramatma or as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is the original cause of all natural events. Therefore, he is described as Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. Behind everything visible to our material eyes is some cause, and one who can see the original cause of all causes, Lord Krishna, can actually see Krishna. The Satchidananda Vigraha is the background of everything, as he himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya dakshena prakriti shuyate sacharacharam hetunanena konteya jagad viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji. Right, so I'll just read the translation again. The objects of material enjoyment, sound, form, taste, touch, and smell, the activities of the senses, the controllers of sensory activities, the demigods, the body, eternal time, and egotism are all creations of your material energy. Those whose intelligence has become fixed by perfect execution of mystic yoga can see that all these elements result from the actions of your external energy. They can also see your transcendental form as supersoul in the background of everything. Therefore, I repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivashadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are in this section, the last section of this chapter. So we know that these all residents of Jambudip are offering their prayers, and this particular chapter has covered the prayers of the residents of 6 varshas, right? So in the introduction, Prabhupada very nicely he describes which are the 6 varshas of the residents of whom are offering their prayers. So just a quick, I'm sure everybody's already knows that. So we first started with Bhadrashrava Varsha, right? Then we went on to Hari Varsha. Then next one was Ketumala Varsha. Then we went to Ramyak Varsha. Then we went to, which Varsha is that? Ramyak, then Ramyak Varsha, then we have Uttar Kuru Varsha, and then Hiranmay Varsha. So Hiranmay, and then last one is Uttar Kuru. So we are currently dealing with Uttar Kuru Varsha, where the form of Varahadev is being worshipped, the form of the boar. And the primary resident who is offering that worship or offering the prayer is Bhumi Devi. Just like she was rescued by Varahadev earlier in the first time of Hiranyaksha. So in this section, 34 to 39, these are prayers by Mother Earth to glorify Lord Varahadev. So in this particular verse, there are 4 points that we can get. So first point that is mentioned is all these objects, there are So there are six actually, six elements that is part of Krishna's external energy. So as part of Maya, all of these six elements, they come under that. And what are they? So first one is Dravya. Dravya, we know in Hindi it is called objects, right? Dravya. So the objects of what? Of sense enjoyment. So what are these objects? In the translation, Prabhupada writes sound, form, taste, touch, and smell. So the five senses, they look for engagement with the objects of the senses. So these are included in the Dravya. So anything that the senses can engage on is Dravya. So that is the first one. Second is the Kriya. Kriya meaning activities. So activities of the senses. So first one was objects of the senses. The destination which the sense object is moving towards, is being attracted towards, is engaging in. That is the object. And the activity itself, that engagement is the Kriya. So Dravya, Kriya. Third is Hetu. Hetu meaning the predominating deities. So all, as we understand from Bhagavatam, all our sense objects are also controlled by devatas. So they are the predominating deities. So Dravya, Kriya, Hetu. And then the fourth one is Ayan. Ayan meaning the body, this material body that we have been given for engaging the senses with the object of the senses. So that's the fourth one, that's a body. And the fifth one is Isha. Isha is the time or Kal, so predominating time. So that's the fifth element, time. It's also one of the five important elements that we read in Bhagavad Gita. The whole Bhagavad Gita involves around five elements. So time is one of them. So here also it is mentioned, Isha, time. And the last one is Kartribhihi, meaning false egotism. So the real ego, when it is covered by the fact that I am the master, the real ego is I am the servant of the Supreme Lord. And my duty is to serve him. But when that gets covered by the fact that I am not the servant, I am the master and I won't like to lord it over, that's when the ego is contaminated and it is mentioned that it becomes false ego. It's not the real ego. Now, because it is false ego, it is temporary. It cannot be there for a long, long time. It's not the original nature of the real, of the ego to remain in the falsified condition. So it is false ego. So all of these six elements, so Dravya, Kriya, Hetu, Ayan, Isha, Kartribhi, which is the things in the first line of this verse itself. So these six things, they are what is mentioned, they are all creations of Krishna's material energy. Right? It is mentioned here. That is Maya, Maya Gunair. So it is created by Maya Gunair. Okay, fine. So these six elements are part of Krishna's external energy or Maya. Fine. That is first part. So what? So the next point is those whose intelligence has become fixed by the perfect execution of mystic yoga can see that all these elements result from the actions of your external energy. Right? So the first part is just giving information that these six elements are part of Krishna's external energy. But the second part is, a lot of people may know, like we often tell others, we are not the body. But when we go through suffering ourselves, then we are focused only on the body. Then we forget we are spirit soul, right? It happens. So similarly, when we read this information from Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, that all of these six elements are part of Krishna's energy, to know is one thing, but to realize is something completely different. So what is the process for realizing is given in the next part. So those whose intelligence has become fixed. So people who are using their intelligence in what? In perfectly executing yoga or connecting with the Supreme Lord. So those who are using their intelligence to connect with the Supreme Lord, they can see that all these elements result from the actions of Krishna's exterior energy, external energy. They can see means what? They can realize. Okay? They realize it. They understand. So after we know, there are different stages. So once we have information, then what we need to do? We need to digest that information. We need to understand it in the best possible way. Of course, to understand all the activities of Krishna and his energies is practically impossible, but we try our best to understand in the most appropriate way that our capacity and our intelligence allows us to do, which is also given by Krishna himself. So one who realizes, who connects with the Lord through his intelligence, that person can realize that these six elements are actually Krishna's external energy. So that's the second point in this verse. Third point is they can also see your transcendental form as super soul in the background of everything. Right? They can actually see. So when they realize that all these six elements are part of the energy, after that they're able to perceive the form of the super soul and to understand that Krishna or super soul is behind all of this. Because they go through these three things, they understand. First they know it, then they engage their intelligence and connect, and as a result they are able to see how the super soul is behind all of this creation. Because they realize it, and they feel, when you realize something of great importance and the fact that we are actually being helped, we are actually being taken care of and protected by the Supreme Lord. Our body, our senses, the objects of the senses, everything is being looked after. Naturally, there is a feeling of gratefulness. A gratitude comes up. As soon as we realize we have got something, somebody is out of their causeless mercy not to do some business, but just without any reason, they are just wanting to do good to us. Naturally, there is a feeling of gratefulness. And as a result of that, the last point is what? Therefore, I repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So it is a very nice process that is given here of how we don't have to force ourselves to offer obeisances. We don't have to force ourselves to pray to the Lord. It comes as a natural development once we consciously try to connect ourselves with the Lord. The more we connect, the more we realize his greatness, the more we realize how much he's doing for us. And the feeling of gratefulness is a natural byproduct. So here the word here used, Prabhupada writes, is repeatedly. If you see here, it's repeatedly, not just once. So that's a difference between a person who's devoted to the Lord and a person who's not that devoted. People offer obeisances to Krishna maybe once a year, maybe once in 6 months, once a month, once a week. But a person who's devoted to the Supreme Lord, because he is connected and he feels that attitude of gratefulness, he by default wants to offer obeisances whenever possible. Is it not? See, when we leave the house, we offer obeisances to the deities at home. When we come back, we offer obeisances. A lot of people, when they buy something new, they offer obeisances. So the deity then becomes a part of our existence. And offering obeisances is not something we have to remind ourselves. It's a natural way of life that we want to incorporate and inculcate. So this is a very nice process to tell us in that, or lead us in that aspect. So let's look at some of the points that Prabhupada mentions in the purport. He gives this nice verse from Bhagavad Gita, which is of the most quoted verse of Srila Prabhupada, 15:15. Sarvasya chaham vridi sannivishto mattasmiti jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarvairaham eva vedyo vedanta kridveda videva chaham. So that Krishna is seated in everyone's heart and everything ultimately is being directed by him. Our intelligence, our remembrance, our forgetfulness, everything is directed by him. So the person who's advanced in spiritual knowledge or a person who's expert in the practice of this mystic yoga can understand the transcendence. So when we connect ourselves, when we are engaging in the process of bhakti, and specifically in our case, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, he has specifically given us the process of sadhana bhakti. While here somebody might argue that, okay, they are here, what is being mentioned here is Ashtanga yoga. But all these forms of yoga ultimately is to connect one to the Supreme Lord. So it doesn't matter whether it is bhakti yoga or the Ashtanga yoga. Ultimately, we have to come to the level of complete absorption of Krishna, complete remembrance of Krishna. So if somebody wants to go through the Ashtanga yoga process, that is fine. But in this yoga, it is not recommended. It is very, very difficult to go through that process. So the easier and the recommended process given by none other than the Lord himself, who came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to give us the process of sadhana bhakti. So when somebody uses their intelligence in following the process of sadhana bhakti, what happens? They can understand this. They can understand and they can realize. So here Prabhupada writes that they can understand transcendence either as Paramatma or the Supreme Person. Then Prabhupada writes that the Supreme Lord is the original cause of all natural events. So he is described as Sarva Karana Karanam. Now this is an important line. If you have your Bhagavatam, you can please underline or mark this. Sometimes people get a bit disillusioned in terms of, can I actually see Krishna? Right? Yes, when we attain that state of purification, we will be able to see Krishna. But currently it's all covered. But even in this state of covering, depending on the level of sincerity of service, the process of bhakti, and the level of purification as a result, we will be able to see Krishna even now. But now, what is the process of seeing Krishna? Prabhupada very nicely explains in the purport, and I'm going to read that line. He writes that behind everything visible to our material eyes is some cause. And one who can see the original cause of all causes, Lord Krishna, can actually see. Please underline this. One who can see the original cause of all causes, Lord Krishna, can actually see. So what do you mean by, or what does Prabhupada mean by saying see the original cause? Anybody who follows the process is able to understand and realize that information. Realize that yes, Krishna indeed is the cause of all causes. That person can actually see Krishna. What does it mean by seeing Krishna? They can perceive Krishna. Right. So a devotee may not be able to see Krishna in his original transcendental form face to face. But a devotee is able to experience the presence of Krishna in his life. Yes? I'm sure all of you would have this experience, right? We have all experienced Krishna in our life. We might not have seen him with our eyes, but we have experienced. And because of that experience, we feel connected with him. Because we feel connected with him, we all the more want to engage in the process of sadhana bhakti. We want to intensify our sadhana. So if you are chanting, we want to chant better. If you are reading, we want to chant more. We read more. if you are serving, we want to look for opportunities to do more service. That is a natural process. Why? Because we have realized, the devotee has realized Krishna, has realized the presence of Krishna in their life. And that is more important than seeing Krishna. Let's go to the example of Arjun in this regard. So we know that this Bhagavad Gita was personally spoken to Arjun by Krishna himself. Physically, he was physically present there. Right? In his own transcendental body, he was physically present, and he gave Arjun that instruction. Now in Bhagavatam, we understand that after Krishna left this material world and he went back to his abode, Arjun suffered the worst reverse of his life, where as he was returning from Dwarka with the queens of Krishna, just a simple gang of local dacoits with very, very primitive weapons, they attacked Arjun, and Arjun could not defend the wives of Krishna, and these dacoits successfully took away the wives. And Arjun was very, very despondent. He was very dejected. Yeah. And he began to wonder that why this has happened in the first place. He had the same Gandiv that which he had used to conquer so many big generals in the war. And in a war, in a small battle like this, it's not even a battle, it's like a small fight, they defeated him. And then his mind was disturbed, perhaps even more disturbed than how he felt when he came to fight the battle of Kurukshetra, where he was bewildered and he just dropped his Gandiv. In this instance, in Bhagavatam, when Arjun was defeated, he was even more disturbed. And then Arjun mentions, when he comes back to Hastinapur and reports it to Yudhishthir Maharaj, he mentions to Yudhishthir that yes, he is going through a lot of stress and mental turmoil, but he is getting extreme solace by remembering the same instructions that Krishna gave him. Right? So even for Arjun, remembering the same instructions of Krishna gave him the same relief that he experienced when Krishna gave him this instruction personally. So through Arjun's example, we understand that it is not important to see Krishna face to face. It is not important to have the instruction of Krishna exactly from him, only from him. That is not important. If we get it, if we get it, that's great. But it is not important. What is important is to understand and realize the instructions of Krishna and to allow that instruction to work in our lives by following those instructions. And that gave Arjun solace. And same thing, Prabhupada writes here, when we are able to digest that information, follow it in our lives, that equates to seeing Krishna in our life. So this is what we will need to aspire for, to see Krishna in everything. So we don't try to see Krishna, but we try to see everything in relationship to Krishna and understand how Krishna is directing our life through his different instructions, through the activities that he performs and gives us lessons, and by associating with the devotees, advanced devotees who have connected very deeply with Krishna. And then, of course, Prabhupada finishes this purport by quoting this very nice verse, Maya yadhakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam. So here he writes that this whole material world is acting under my direction. Right? And by its rule, on account of this material energy, everything is being produced and ultimately annihilated. And all the living entities are stuck in this material energy, in the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease, birth, old age, disease, death, birth, old age. So like that, it is going on constantly. And in chapter 14, he also gives us the solution. So here he says that everything, these 6 objects, everything is under Krishna's external energy. and the jivas are baddha, they're bound in this. So in chapter 14, 26, Krishna also gives us the way to get out of this Maya. So yes, we are entangled by Maya. Yes, we are bound by the ropes of the gunas in this material energy. But there is a way to get out of that. And what is that? Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So he says that yes, this Mam chayo vyabhicharena. Vyabhichara means without fail. Without fail what? Bhakti yogena sevate. So one who engages in the process of bhakti yoga, bhakti yogena sevate. What happens? Sa gunan. This guna, this ropes that binds a living entity. What happens? Samatityaitan. That person who is bound, he will get released. He will transcend these ropes. He will transcend this binding. And what happens? Brahma bhuyaya. He will achieve the level of Brahman. He comes to the level of Brahman. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati. So in the pages of Bhagavatam, we see many devotees whose activities are mentioned, who have gone through that process. They are part of this material world, but they do not belong to this material world. Right? Many examples. They are there. They just look like us. They seem to do activities just like us. But their consciousness does not belong here at all. They don't care what is going on. They are in their own connection with the Supreme Lord. Any examples you can think of from Bhagavatam of such devotees?
Vishnu, Ambarish Prabhu is one of the great examples of that.
Yes,
Utilize all his senses for the service of the Lord. So in one
absolutely.
sense, although he was in the material world, he was virtually doing everything for the service of the Lord. So he's really a person of transcendental world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Prabhuji. Great. Another example? We've just read his
Jad Bharat,
pastimes.
Prabhuji.
Sorry?
Jad Bharat.
Jad
Jad
Bharat,
Bharat.
yes, thank you. Absolutely. He was of course, he's on the other end of the spectrum completely. But yes, a person who's completely transcended the formalities of this material world and completely engrossed in his absorption of the Supreme Lord. So these examples, they confirm this process, this flow that is given in this particular verse. So it is said, any verse of the Bhagavatam, we can connect with any one of the stories or pastimes in Bhagavatam. And this connection and discovery, so when we read Bhagavatam, we are discovering. It is there, everything is there. But based on our level of understanding and our sincerity to understand, Krishna helps us discover these points. And when we are able to connect the process with the philosophy, with the examples, that's when we realize or we start understanding better and we feel good about it. We feel some bliss that, I'm able to understand a little bit. And just little understanding gives us so much bliss. What to talk about engaging our time and energy more in the pages of Bhagavatam. So yes, we are in this material world. Yes, we are bound by Krishna's energy, and all these 6 elements, 6 points are part of that energy. But Krishna, he also is doing something to get out of this energy, to help us engage more seriously in Bhakti Yoga. And what does he do? Bhagavatam says in the last verse of 2nd chapter, which I've mentioned earlier as well, is he, first of all, he creates this material world. Why? Sometimes people feel that why did Krishna create this material world? He could have just given us prema and we could have just stayed there. We understand that that's not how Krishna wants us to be. He doesn't want to force or make us into mindless robots. He wants love, and love can be exchanged only when there is some emotion. There are feelings in the heart that are individual based. It is not forced. So he wants that love. And that love, to get that love, he wants to do anything and everything. Just like the example given is when a lover wants to woo the partner, they can go to any extent to win over, right? Seen in a lot of movies, and even around us we see when somebody is really deeply fallen in love with somebody, they can go to any extent to connect with them, to stay connected, to do something for them, to serve them, and to express their feelings of love. And same thing, actually, Krishna is doing for us, but we don't realize it. We just feel that Krishna is our project, our creator. He's done so many things, but he's done so many um, issues that have so many challenges, and we are forced to go through these pains and problems. And we, instead of expressing gratitude, we sometimes put the blame on Krishna, even after knowing this information. So sometimes it's good to step back and see how much Krishna is extending himself just to make us realize that we don't belong to this place and we should not suffer. Krishna is doing this so that we should not have to suffer here at all. And even in our current state, he is trying his best, as hard as he can, to give us that realization and make us feel blissful even while we are in this material world. First, why are we in this material world? Because we have a desire to lord it over. So Krishna creates this whole material world. He actually engages his inferior energy to create the material world for whom? For us. Why? Because we want to fulfill our desires. So Krishna is giving us that opportunity. So we are making him work hard to create this material world to fulfill our desires. And Krishna is doing that. What was the reason of expanding as the Purusha avatars? The Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Karudakshay, Shirodakshay Vishnu. Why? Just to create material worlds so that living entities who want to lord it over, they can enjoy. So we are making Krishna do so much work. Okay, he created this. But then he didn't just create and say, okay, fine, you wanted to lord it over, I've created this material world, now go and suffer. No. He knows when we go there, we will suffer. But as a compassionate father who's very, very concerned about the well-being of each and every child, Krishna also, he created this material world. And then what did he do? He was looking for opportunities to come here himself and perform some pastimes, some completely different, far out pastimes to attract our attention and to make us realize, to hear those stories, to hear those pastimes, and to attain a level of purity so that we can develop the desire to now go back. So we came to this material world with the desire to enjoy. He is performing these pastimes so that our desires can then be changed. So Krishna is first, he created the world, then he himself comes in the form of different incarnations to perform pastimes to attract us and change our desires. So second service that Krishna is doing. Third, not only does Krishna come himself, he also sends Satyavesha avatars, empowered beings, to this material world. Apart from performing pastimes, he sends these people. Why? So that these people who already have realized Krishna, who are liberated souls, they can interact more closely with the living entities who are suffering in this material world and further develop their desires or change their desires so that they also develop the desire to serve and ultimately go back, get out of this miserable world. So that's a third way Krishna is serving. And of course, fourth way he's serving is as Kshirodakshay Vishnu himself, seated as Paramatma in everyone's heart. Every living entity has got Krishna in his heart. So 4 ways, there are many other ways, but primarily there are these 4 ways that any sane person will realize that I am being looked after every moment of my life. I am being looked after. I may be in Krishna's material energy, but I am also being protected by Krishna's internal energy. Now it's up to me. Do I go in the default mode and try to look for a little bit of enjoyment in this external energy of the Lord? Or do I dedicate my activities and my intelligence and spend more time, more energy in associating with the internal energy of the Lord? And to help us facilitate that, Prabhupada has given us this whole process of bhakti, specifically tailor-made for people in this particular yuga. Follow it sincerely and associate more with Krishna's superior energy. Don't worry about external energy of the Lord. It will automatically, when the time comes, the level of purity comes, our path will be completely set to go back to where we actually belong. And till we even go there, we of course, as devotees who are committed to the Lord, they are not even interested to go back straight away. What they're more interested is in constantly being engaged in the service of the Lord and in constant absorption of his thoughts. And that can happen even now as we are here. We don't have to go back. So Bhumi Mata is praying with this intention, and all the inhabitants are praying and offering their obeisances with this realization that everything belongs to Krishna. And as long as we are able to use our intelligence and connect with Krishna deeply, we don't need to worry. And to connect our intelligence to Krishna, Prabhupada has given us the process. And the process, as we know, it's more, everybody knows it, but I just thought I'll conclude with these 5 S's. How do we know we are following the process? How do we know that we are seeing Krishna by our experience? We are experiencing that Krishna is part of our life by following the 5 S's. What are the 5 S's? First is S1, Sadhu Sangha. Are we doing enough Sadhu Sangha? If we are not in association of devotees, very difficult, practically impossible. In the association of devotees, Sadhu Sangha, what are we doing? Second is strict sadhana, meaning the chanting, our japa, is very, very, very important. That is the single most important component. Even if you are doing 16 rounds, to constantly try and increase the quality, do it in the morning time. Third, swadhyaya, regular study of scriptures. And sometimes, yes, we do Bhagavatam class, we are studying on our own, but sometimes we need the association of devotees and some structured course which will help us, which will put us in some kind of pressure, because unless there is some pressure that we would like to voluntarily take on, we will never become serious. Right? So Sadhu Sangha, sadhana. Third is swadhyaya. And fourth is seva. Ultimately, by doing all of these things, we have to engage in service of the Lord. And then the byproduct is the 5th S, which is sadachar. Something that is a byproduct of doing the first 4 S's. So if we constantly mold our lives and put our intelligence in improving and spending more energy in improving these 5 S's in our life, then we will be able to experience Krishna. We will be able to see Krishna in our life. And just like the residents here, along with Bhumi Mata is praying, we will be naturally inclined to offer our repeated obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Open to any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much. That's a very nice class, explaining the verse so nicely and particularly bringing out the essential point of that ultimately boils down is that we are spiritual. We are, our original constitution is spiritual, but because of the covering, we have landed in this material world to enjoy, basically, but with the intention to enjoy. but the Lord is giving us all opportunities to understand our real constitutional position, that we are we are transcendental. We are transcendental in our character originally, but because of the contamination of the material nature, every moment we are forgetting this, and the process is to realize that knowledge. And Krishna has made so many opportunities for us to understand. Although because he is transcendental, in our material eyes we cannot see him, but from everything, we have some transcendental knowledge. We can understand the Lord is a source of everything, and everything that we are doing is ultimately connected to Krishna, and Krishna is facilitating everything for which we are getting all these things. And it is also, if I can remember that in Purushottam Yoga also 15:10, I think it is, they are mentioned, Utkramantam Sitam Vapi. It is telling that how a person is born, how a person is living his body, he's enjoying the body, and how he gets a new body. That is all ordained by the Lord. But to understand it, it requires some knowledge. The foolish person cannot understand it, but a person who has some transcendental knowledge, he can understand the Lord is behind everything. So we have to understand it, and when we understand that Krishna is the source of everything, we should align our activities. Everything we do, we should try to do it for this as a service to the Lord, and in this way we can purify ourselves, and we can realize ultimately, if with the mercy of the devotees and as our service, as you have very nicely told, 5 things, with that we can realize that that knowledge becomes, we purify by that knowledge, and ultimately we can go back to Godhead with the when the Lord is pleased. But for that, only path is by devotional service, as 1426 is very clearly stated. Only by devotional service we can transcend the mode of material nature. Otherwise, if we remain in material nature, we cannot, we are forgetting our original things, and we are in external situation. So the more we acquire transcendental knowledge, we go back to our Lord is facilitating us, and we should take advantage of that, and get rid of our material coverings and go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much.
you. Okay, any other comments? Good. Okay, so we'll conclude.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyeva
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Nantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Oh,
His Grace Suhrit Krishna Prabhu ki jai. Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
All glorious assembled devotees, Hare Krishna.
Krishna.